it's a rampant disease in our industry and probably from a lot of small businesses is no one can do it better than me-itis. So we get as owners, yeah, of course, it's your business, it's your baby, you care the most, you have the biggest investment in this company, and that's true. But what happens is that you really bottleneck yourself. If you bottleneck the business and you're like, I got to get my hands in this, I got to make sure we get the right caregiver out there, and you sort of are managing each piece versus empowering your team and holding them accountable. Hire good people, teach them the way, train them, hold them accountable, and just keep up-leveling their skill sets, then you can focus on bigger things.
You're listening to Home Care Hindsight, the podcast where we talk with home care leaders about the big mistakes they've made and the even bigger lessons they've learned along the way. I'm David Knack, head of sales here at Zengage, and I've built a career on the idea that we learn a whole lot more from our mistakes than from our successes, which is great because I've made a lot of mistakes. I've gotten to know some of the leaders in this industry who've built amazing businesses and are super well respected. So I thought it'd be fun, instead of asking them about the great things they've accomplished, to have them tell the story of one of the biggest mistakes that they've made and how that mistake changed their thinking and the way they run their business. All right, welcome back to another episode of Home Care Hindsight, brought to you by Zengage. I am joined today by Gregg Mazza. Gregg, welcome to the show.
What's up? Hello, David. How are you?
I am great. For people who are not familiar with you, how would you introduce yourself?
Good question. So a lot of people know me in this industry, but I owned a home care agency from like 2006 to 2016. I started it because I was in a totally different industry, and I was in a place in my life where I wanted to help people. I wanted to actually feel good about what I was doing. I used to have a really close relationship with my grandparents. So I started this home care business with the intent of giving seniors a better quality of life.
Yeah.
And in the process of doing that, I built my agency. I moved out of state. I sold it. And then over the last almost decade, I've been working with home care owners, helping them get to the other side in their business.
A lot of people know what you do from like a coaching and masterminding perspective and all that kind of stuff. But you're telling me a little bit about kind of the why behind like what got you started on this road. And like, obviously after selling your business, you could have done, a lot of different kinds of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple things that come up. The first is that like, I was part of a franchise system, and anyone that was in the franchise system by that time, they'll tell you it's like, I constantly bringing ideas to the table, helping people overcome struggles, helping people restructure their agency. That just was natural inside of me. But a big part of my motivation is the first few years of my home care agency, it was rough. Like it was hard. Like even though we were getting some revenue and I built this thing from scratch, we were getting some referrals, getting some revenue, but I was overwhelmed. And there are long parts of my life where I feel like my kids kind of got the short end of the stick because I missed school events. I had to go help out in the office. I feel, guilty about that, but also it was very, very stressful. And then I learned some strategies, some new ways of approaching the business. I think I said to you before we got on this is like, I grew revenue in my company over $1 million in a year. In today's dollars, that would have been like 1.5, almost $2 million in revenue growth in 1 year.
Yeah.
And it changed my life. Like it put me in a position where I can start building out the team, start building more infrastructure, start incorporating technologies, structure systems, hiring consultants. Like it put me in a position where my quality of life improved greatly. And I went from the business running me to now I was able to take close to 9 months off from the business. So for me, it's like the big motivation is I feel like in our industry, the home care owners, they have these huge hearts. Like they just want to help and they just want to serve, but they overgive and they get sucked into the business. And I resonate with that. And my goal is to help them break through to the other side, like get to the other side, no more settling for this when you can serve more people, serve your clients better, and have a better quality of life. And that for me is the driving force.
So I go to this next portion of the show where I ask the question, what kind of person are you? And I'll just kind of ask that to you nakedly. So Gregg, what kind of person are you?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually asked some of my, it's been like 3 years, or I did it in either in my Facebook group. I was like, how would you guys describe me? And I don't remember exactly what they said, but I'm very direct, but also direct with compassion, right? Because for me, like when I work with my clients, it's funny if I had a nickel for every time they said, Gregg pushed me to do this. Gregg pushed me. He wouldn't let, and that comes from a place of love, because I see the potential in my clients, and I just won't let them settle for anything less. So it's like, I may sometimes, I don't know how people view me, but sometimes I may be, and I tell people, I'm like, is it okay if I'm just direct? Because I'm just going to say it how it is. Yeah. So I'll just tell people directly, like what I see, what's real. And 99.9% of the time, it's like when I push them, they get to the other side.
Yeah, Gregg pushed me. I love hearing that refrain.
They do. They say, Gregg. If I have probably a bunch of videos of it. It's like, well, Gregg pushed me to. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm pushing them. But it's all like, it really is. It's done with compassion. But I won't let people settle for like, this is the best that it gets, right? I've got to be on call, or like Gregg pushed me to go hire the next person. Yeah, I push you because I know if you do that, it's going to make your life so much better in the long run. If you stop doing payroll, it's going to make your life better in the long run, because we're going to focus on bigger and more important things. So I push you because I can see what you can't when you're in it.
As we started managing on call for some of our clients, it's just crazy the amount of like cognitive bandwidth that opens up, and the potential that they see in their business that they didn't before, because they were heads down in the weeds of the day-to-day putting out fires. So
exactly.
Kind of different angle taking it to that.
But same thing. Yeah. Same concept. It's even on call. I had someone at my live event, and she's doing on call. And I said, how long have you had your business now? I said, you're not doing on call anymore. Yeah. Like you're getting, as soon as we get back, you're getting that off your plate. And she did. Yeah. She totally did.
That's awesome. I understand though, the impulse to, as the owner, keep that close, because it's like, pretty important part of the business. Like you can't drop the ball there, but also like it's like the worst part of the business. And so I understand from like a servant leadership perspective, wanting to hang on to that, because you don't want to put that on your people who, don't have the same incentive, don't have the same comp structure that you do. So I get it, but man, what a way to get held back.
Yeah. It'll burn you out. Big time. I mean, it's just a reality. It'll burn you out. I try to help people understand. It's like there's an opportunity cost, even though it's an important part of the business. But if you're getting sucked into the weeds with that, then you're not focusing on growth. And if you don't focus on growth, it makes it so much harder. You think you're serving your clients at a higher level, but you're not. When you have the bandwidth, when you're not overwhelmed, when you're not burnt out, and you have the resources because you're growing, you can build that into the infrastructure of the business and serve your clients at a higher level, much higher level, even if you're not the one doing all the nitty gritty, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. Okay, well, Gregg, you're here. You've accomplished a lot of different stuff. You've helped your clients to accomplish a lot of stuff, but we're not here to talk about any of that. Instead, I bring accomplished leaders in home care on this show to ask them about the big mistake they made and how that mistake changed the way they think about life and their business. So, Gregg, what's your big mistake?
How long we got for this show?
Like 8 more minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. I have. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes through the years. I think the biggest mistake for me is I wanted to grow the business, right? And I would hire salespeople. I'm like, all right. And keep in mind, my background is sales, but my goal of starting this business was to really be CEO of my company, be the president, be the owner. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to hire salespeople, let them go out there and sell, and we're good. Right. So I'd hire one person, industry experience, came from a recommended, source that I thought I knew, and they didn't produce. Hired another person, industry experience, they didn't produce. Another person, great personality, they didn't produce. I went through 5, 6, 7 salespeople before I got it right. And the embarrassing part, David, is I actually used to be a sales manager, totally different industry. But I used to be a sales manager. So I'm like, here I am. It's my own business, and it's fail, 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 fail. And, for me, what I learned, there's like 3 key things to get it right with salespeople. The first is we got to get the right person. And I know that sounds like, oh, well, of course, Gregg, but but there's certain traits and qualities and profiles I look for. I will hire for traits and qualities and profile over I've been in the industry any day. Right now, if I can get traits and qualities and profile plus this, all right, I'm for it. I will absolutely consider it. But I was just hiring for quote unquote industry experience or likability. And that's the first thing. The second thing is having a sales system, right? So it's like I was out there getting referrals, but now how do I teach this to my salespeople? It's not just knocking on doors. Like we got to have a process and a system, something that actually works. And then the third part is your accountability process. It's not just meeting with them weekly and being like, all right, what do you got going on this week? What events? Any pending referrals? Like there's a little bit more structure to it. And when you have those three components, that's where you're going to have success with it, or much more likely to have success, right? There's never 100% fail proof, but the mistake I made was just like, oh, I'm going to hire them. They got the industry experience and they seem likable. Let's go for it. If I tell you how much $200,000 plus of wasted money, and when you're a small business, that's a lot. It's a lot. But I didn't give up because I was like, I knew I could. My vision stayed the same. It's like I want to be the CEO of the company. Right. I want to get to that place. And if I was doing the sales, I couldn't ever get there. So I kept going and I finally learned how to do it.
Who was the first salesperson that you hired that made it?
I'm drawing a blank on his name because it was like 12 years ago. He was in healthcare, but he wasn't in home care. He had sales experience. He had a track record of success, right? So I validated the track record of success. I'm a big believer in the DISC profile. So he was very, very close. He wasn't spot on, but he was very, very close. And he worked for like a year and a half and did good. And then the next guy that I hired, he did really, really well. He came from, I almost didn't hire him. So he did copier sales when he was a little bit younger. And then his last position was VIP sales at a nightclub. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why am I even I really almost didn't hire him because I'm like, home care, healthcare, VIP at a nightclub. But he wanted this, like, and he had a good heart. And it's like, for me, I want that hunter with the heart. And he checked all the boxes. And this guy ended up staying with the company I sold. He stayed for another 5+ years after I sold. So it's like, I'm big on traits, qualities, and profile and track record of success. All the other stuff, like we look at it, but I can teach someone a system. I can't teach someone to be assertive. I can't teach someone to be driven. I can't teach someone to be resilient.
Yeah. I like hunter with a heart. That's a really good like shorthand for the kind of person that frankly I'm looking at for my team too, right? In so many ways, we've got to be kind of a reflection of the industry, and the typical kind of pushy sales guy that's selling to CFOs or whatever just doesn't cut it in my line of work. And I know it doesn't work in this transactional kind of nonsense, doesn't work in referral systems either.
No. And for me, I'm going to share an embarrassing story. One of my first sales jobs, I was in college and I didn't like sales. Like I just was doing it because every other job I'm like capped. It was like I wasn't making enough money, and I was selling above ground pools. And I'm not going to name the company, but it was just like their methodology was kind of sleazy, right? It was like they bring people in on the $499 pool, but they want you to upsell them to the $3,000, $4,000 pool. And then you got to go to the back and tell them there's only one left in stock, even if there's 50. Like it was just, the whole thing was slimy. And I remember a couple times going into the bathroom and I was so uncomfortable that I cried. And it's embarrassing. You could publish this, but it's embarrassing. Like I literally was in the bathroom. I was just like, what am I doing? Right. But my mom's like, she just taught me this mentality. Don't ever quit. So I stuck it out for the summer. It was a summer job, but I just vowed, I was like, I don't want to be salesy. I don't even on my business card, I like home care consultant. I don't like salesperson. I'm a consultant. When I switched my perception of who I was to like a consultant versus just someone that's going out to try to sell something, it's just like that whole dynamic energetically shifted, and my results improved dramatically because of that.
I feel like a lot of people that I talk to are, you get your two kinds of owners that come in. There's like the operational leader, and then you just need to hire a salesperson, get out of the way and find somebody good. That's a different kind of set of challenges. But I think what you can probably speak to more is you're an owner, you're really good at sales. Everybody who's coming in the door is a result of your network and your relationships and the kind of referral network that you've generated. How do you A, get out of the way, and B, get all the intangible, unsaid, instinctive stuff that you're doing to be successful outside of your own brain and hand it to somebody else?
Yeah. So, it's a good question. When I hired salespeople initially, none of them worked, 4 or 5 in the beginning. Then I did sales again for a bit, right? That's when we had the $1 million in growth. And then hired another 2 salespeople. They failed again. And I was like, I got to learn this. I'm doing something wrong. So when I hired the next person, I maintained a couple high level relationships.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I gave them the rest. I did get out of the way. My vision was I want to build this business to be able to run without me. That was my vision. I held on to this. And this way I can be working more on the business. So I had KPIs. I did introduce them to referral sources and I let them take it and run with it.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of it is I think most owners go through this where it's I don't want to give it up. I don't want to, even if you're not in sales, it's it could be operations. I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give up on call because, whatever their reasoning is, I could do it better. It's my business. And that's fine. I don't judge people that do that. It's just, I went through that and then I realized I can't scale this if I stay in that. And then I become the bottleneck of the business. So when you recognize all right, I'm the bottleneck, you have to get out of the way and you have to let people, I call it fail forward. You got to let them fail forward. Now we'll have some safety nets in place, which brings me to the second part. I took my process, I took my system and just sort of documented what I was doing, how I targeted accounts. And there's strategy stuff that I still did as the owner, with my clients. There's certain strategy stuff that I'm all right, I still want the owners involved in the strategy part. And then there's building out your list. There's establishing a certain set of KPIs. And our KPIs, we focus on the key activities that we're going to be doing. I call them lead measures. The lead activities, if you do these and you do these well, the lag measures of the results will be there. So you have to have a system. And then part of the management part is, are they following the system? So you just, as an owner, you have to be able to document it. Now, that's why you still hire for traits and qualities because you want someone that's got the traits and qualities you want. I can teach them a system, right? Just think about McDonald's. Most McDonald's, they're the biggest burger franchise by far in the country. It's not like their burgers are infinitely better than Burger King. It's just they've got better systems and processes. So you have a good system. And then the part of the management component is managing them to the system. So if you get the right person, you manage them to the system. That's how you do it. And that now you've got, and this, by the way, works for almost any role and function. If you do it with recruiting too, it's what's the system? And now I hire the person with the traits and qualities I want for that role. I've got KPI set up. And now I manage them to the system. And once they've got the system down, now you're just measuring the results. You measure the KPIs consistently and you have a process for that. And I had quality control in place too. What do I mean by quality control? We had surveys that we would do, customer satisfaction surveys and caregiver satisfaction surveys. I didn't really have one for, do my referral sources like my salesperson? The results are going to tell me that.
I think it's super helpful. I think what a lot of home care runs into, either from the owner's perspective being this bottleneck or from having some key person in the office, often it's a scheduler, it's the hit by the bus problem, which is, if I get hit by the bus on the way home, is everything in the business and the way it runs going to go away with me? And I think so much of what you're saying here is you want to bring in great people and set them up for success, but you also can't build a business that depends on that person staying with you forever, because you're going to have people come into that seat, leave that seat, and you've got to have a plan, not just to catch lightning in a bottle once and hire one great salesperson. You've got to be able to hire another great salesperson.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. And you do that with systems, SOPs, and KPIs. And then we had a management system in place in our business. Yeah. Right. So there's a lot of components that go into a good management system, but your weekly meeting structure, what that looks like, what are the things that you're tracking? When I took the 9 months off from the business, I still had my finger on the pulse of the business. Sure. I just wasn't in the day to day. Like I would participate in the weekly meetings. I still was managing the salesperson, but I was, mostly out working, doing some personal stuff. And yeah, I think it just depends on what people want. Like, what do they really want out of this? Is like, sometimes I see people say they want something, but their behavior is not bringing them there. And it's not their fault. They don't know what they don't know.
Sure.
There's a saying, you can't see the forest through the trees. And it's true. Even for me in this business, it's like I have mentors and coaches because I'm like, I can't always see what I'm doing or what I'm not doing. And having a different elevated perspective helps.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to transition to me asking you about something that you think is just totally overrated in home care. People think that it's really important. You think it's like garbage.
Well, I'll probably piss off a lot of people when I say this, but I come from the sales world and it's like I talk to a lot of people and I'll ask them like, hey, what sets your company apart? Why is someone going to hire you? And I feel like 50% of the time they're like, well, we got really good customer service. Like I really care. I'm a local owner and I really care. And I'm like, everybody says that.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm discounting the importance of customer service. Like 2 years in a row in my franchise system, we had the highest customer satisfaction scores, but that's not going to get me the referral. That's not going to get me the sale. Like once you start service, you better do a good job and deliver, right? Because that's going to get you repeat business. So customer service matters, but when it comes to being out there and marketing and, doing sales and talking to referral sources or even prospective clients, that phrase, that thing you're going to hang your hat on is not going to move the needle. Yeah. Everyone says it.
There's this sales methodology in primarily in like the software and technology and B2B sales world, which is where I spend my time, called the challenger sale. And it's all about what kind of salespeople are going to be successful regardless of economic environment. And they get all these different archetypes of salespeople, like the helpful seller. Hey, I'd love to send you, I just want to help, that kind of person who's got really happy ears. You've got the lone wolf seller who's just going to make promises and, swear on their mother's grave or whatever, and break stuff and sell a lot of above ground pools, I guess. And then the challenger sale is really focused on education. But anyways, they did this study and identified which portions of the sale resulted in the stickiest relationships. And one of the, I think, hypotheses that anybody would have is like customer service is going to matter a lot. If you have bad customer service, it's going to be terrible. And you're not going to keep those customers. And what they found is that like bad customer service or good customer service didn't have as significant of a impact on the retention of that customer as the sales approach and the kind of way that the salesperson presented themselves in the company.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, just to speak on that, there's something called Net Promoter Score. Sure. I don't know if you're familiar with it, right? I remember learning this in graduate school. Companies that had the highest Net Promoter Score actually messed up more often. But I'm not talking about like huge mess ups, although we can all have them. Even good companies have like huge mess ups. Like I remember, I had one client, 3 mess ups in a row. And I'm like, I crossed my T's, I dotted my I's. We did everything we were supposed to do, but still the caregiver messed up and like things are going to happen. But what I learned is that it's not having the issue that's a big deal. In fact, you'll do better. You'll have more raving fans if you screw up. It's how you respond to screwing up. And those are the companies that actually had the higher net promoter scores versus companies that just did okay to good, but no issues.
Yeah.
Which there is no such thing as no issues, but sure. It's how you respond to it.
Mindful, you and I are both not running home care agencies, and it's the Tuesday after Labor Day. So we had an easy weekend, but a lot of our folks that are listening to this and people that we work with did not have an easy weekend. And probably a ball got dropped here or there over the holiday weekend, from call outs to, changing schedules and travel and just all the chaos of a holiday weekend. So it's going to happen, and how you respond is what really matters.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. Let's talk about a little mistake that you see home care owners make all the time. And if they quit, it'd make their lives or their businesses like 10 times better.
We're calling it a little mistake, but it's actually compounding big mistake. It's a rampant disease in our industry, and probably from a lot of small businesses, is no one can do it better than me-itis. So we get, as owners, yeah, of course, it's your business, it's your baby, you care the most, you have the biggest, investment in this company, and that's true. But what happens is that you really bottleneck yourself. And I was trying to explain this a little bit earlier. It's like, if you bottleneck the business and you're like, I got to get my hands in this, and I got to make sure we get the right caregiver out there, and you sort of are managing each piece versus empowering your team and holding them accountable. Hire good people, teach them the way, train them, hold them accountable, and just keep up leveling their skill sets. Then you can focus on bigger things. And when you think only I can do on call, only I can, I really have to make sure I decide who we're going to hire, and I got to make sure that blah, blah, like whatever it is, the owners that get stuck in that way of thinking, it hurts them. Right. And then they burn out, and then their staff burns out, and they don't get to the point where they have enough growth where they can start, like I said earlier, build the infrastructure, build the team a little bit stronger, build better systems, invest in technologies. And it's like, when you get to that place, it's like good enough is good enough. And it's not that you don't have feedback loops. Like, we had customer satisfaction surveys that would go out. Like, you still have feedback loops to know how you're doing, but you don't have to get stuck in the perfection. And there is no perfection. Even if you're a perfectionist, you're not perfect. And that's okay. No one is perfect. It's how you respond to things, how you do things. Like, if you don't make the time to work on the business and free yourself up from, I have to do everything, then you just get stuck in this cycle, and it's not pretty.
What do you think are the worst offenders that keep owners working in the business instead of on the business?
I mean, I see scheduling a lot. It's like, oh, who should I put on this case? Who should I do? Who should I put here? What should I do there? Yeah. It's owners that are like, I got to do payroll and billing, and it takes them 2 days to do payroll and billing. This is one that some people might not agree with, but we think I'm a good manager if I've got an open door policy. Actually, no, you're not. Right? It's like, we think that, but if you're not focusing on the bigger picture and you're willing to get sidetracked for, a question that your staff can answer on their own, and if you empower them, then you're just getting pulled away from the more important things. And we have multiple stakeholders when we run a home care business, right? So we think we're a better manager, but we're actually not. And I think learning how to let go and delegate is an important piece. So don't have an open door policy. Have set times like, all right, fine. If someone's dying, they can come talk to you, but you have to be able to empower your team so this way you don't get sucked in.
I like the open door policy bit, because that's one that really hasn't come up before. I think so many people just and look, I'm somebody who works remote. I love working remote because when I was in an office, the flyby would just eat up so much of my day. Hey, you got a second? And then 30 minutes has gone by, and you're just, you're hanging out. There's not an intentionality to the interaction. We're not accomplishing anything. We're just kind of hanging out. And so I think a lot of people have that open door policy. I would guess you probably can't go slam the door overnight. How would you recommend turning the ship slowly so that you can get to, I'm focused on the business, we're aligned on the right priorities without alienating your team and hurting culture?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to do that, right? So I think the first thing is you have the conversation with the team, and you help them see the bigger picture. Like, hey guys, I'm going to start trusting you more to do your roles. Like, I hired you for this position because I trust you. I believe in you. I want to make sure you have the tools and the resources that you need, but I have to start focusing on bigger things. Yep. I got to focus on growth. So if this company is going to grow and scale and, give us more opportunity for bonuses and, when it's time for raises, like all that stuff is going to happen. I'm more able to do that when the business is growing. So I have to focus on growth activities. I'm trusting you to do your job. And I'll be a resource for you, but I'm empowering you. And it's okay if you don't do things perfectly. Right. So we have that conversation first, and you can actually do it overnight. The second thing is you got to break the habit. So one of the things I tell a lot of my clients to do is, when you start having staff coming to you like, Greg, what should I do for blah, blah, blah? How would you handle da, da, da? From now on, you say, okay, if you really have something that you need to ask me that you can't do, That's fine. But from now on, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to ask you to come to me. You can come to me with your question, with 2 potential solutions, and which one you think is best. Right? Because most people come to you because they're not doing this on purpose, but because they're lazy. They don't want to think about it.
Yep.
Sometimes it's because they don't want to upset you. So you have to give them permission as the owner, like, listen, I want you to do your job. I'm trusting you to do your job. And it's okay if there's times we're going to fail. And you have to set the culture where it's okay to fail. As long as we learn from the experience, it's okay to fail. So I think it's painting that vision with the team of, I'm going to be spending less time answering questions. Like my door's going to be closed. I'll have open door from this time to this time if you need to talk to me. And then when you do come to talk to me, if you've got a question, still come to me with solutions. Now you're training them to own their role more. Mm-hmm. And then inevitably what happens is that starts fading away. They actually start coming to you for less.
I love it. Okay. Well, I want to transition to, we've talked about a lot of stuff that went wrong, but I like to end every episode on a high note. So tell me about something that's happened lately in your business that you're really proud of.
Well, I guess, so in this business, right? So now I'm on the coaching consulting side. We run mastermind groups. I followed my own advice. I had hired someone because we were getting a lot of leads from different sources, right? We had leads from Facebook and email and whatnot. And I was just like, I was getting overwhelmed. Like, I don't have time to touch all of these. Like, I'm doing I want to be in my zone of genius, right? My zone of genius is giving advice, coaching, consulting, helping people see the path. And if I'm doing this and I'm handling leads and then there's so many people that want to have conversations with me and I just don't have the bandwidth. So I hired someone, a salesperson, et cetera, et cetera. The first person that I hired on paper looked good. Just something inside of my guts, like something's off here. Like this is not yielding the way that I wanted it to.
Sure.
And I cut the plug early. Sure. Like it was maybe a month in and I just trusted. I was like, this doesn't feel right. And even though I invested all this time to getting them trained, I'm like, this is not it. Nice guy, but I'm like, it's not cutting the mustard. And then I had my second person that I hired and it felt right from the beginning. And the results have shown because I was willing to just cut the plug and say no. And I'm telling you, there was periods in the early phase of my home care business where I held on for too long,
Super easy to do.
And I see it all the time with home care owners too. It's like inside, it's not right, but you're just like, it's just stressful and I have to go through all this energy and work. And I get it. I empathize with it, but that hurts you in the long run where you hold on because of fear versus just trusting your internal gut. I've had so many people like, Gregg, I'm glad you encouraged me to make that decision. I held on for too long and now everything's so much better. Sure. And I always hear that's like, when they know that it's not right, I don't tell them it's not right. They tell me but then they hold on. When they finally do it, they're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? I hear it all the time.
Yep. I think that's great. Okay. Well, before we get out of here, what are you going to plug?
So I guess I got lots of things to plug, but I'll start right now. We're focusing on building out the rest of our mastermind group. So we're going to be opening that up here soon in the next few weeks, month. I don't know when this is publishing, but we're going to open that up. It's an application only. So I'm part of a mastermind group. I learn best when I'm in a group of people, movers and shakers, people that wanting to learn and to grow. Yep. And there's like this synergy that happens where it's like, I might stink in this area, right? Let's just say operations, but there's someone in the group that's a operational expert or someone that has solved the problem that I'm struggling with. So I guess if there's anyone that is interested, they want to be part of a group of movers and shakers where they're learning in our business, there's like 3 core things that we help them with: getting more clients, finding and keeping caregivers, and then having a good management system in place in their business so they can build a business that runs without them. So our mastermind group is built on those 3 pillars. And then they'll learn those things, but then they're also learning from the synergy of the group. So if there's anyone in here that's interested in learning more about the mastermind group, I'll have to send you the link, David, because I don't have it handy, but there's a link. They can get more information. There's an application that they can do. Not everyone's a fit for it. At a minimum, they have to be doing $1 million or more a year. So I have multiple groups, and I have some groups where I've got clients doing 20, 30 million a year. So I'll send them the link. And if they're interested, they can get more information, apply, and hopefully they make it in the group.
It sounds great. Well, we'll link that in the show notes below. So take a look there if you're interested. Gregg, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it, David. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
On behalf of the team here at Zengage, thanks for listening to the show. We'll be back next week with another episode, so be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. Leave us a rating while you're there. It helps other people find the show. If you have comments on the show, drop me a line, david@zengage.com. Would love to hear from you, chat with you there.